Thank you very much. This is our section of very successful women in the sciences, technology, engineering, math, STEM, generally known. I have to my left, Adriana Noreña. To my right. Adriana Noreña, General Director of Spanish-speaking Latin America, Google, right? So that's all of Latin America except Brazil.
Correct.
And then Blanco Treviño, who lives in Monterrey, President and Chief Executive Officer of Softtek. Now, you all have their bios, so I'm not going to spend too much time. I'd like to go straight into a Q&A. In the meantime, let me just, right before, take 3 minutes, give you a little bit of my background. Sonia Dulá, I'm Vice Chairman for Bank of America Merrill Lynch for Latin America. And on the back of Sally's presentation, which I thought was excellent, and she has a wonderful sense of humor about everything. I think sense of humor is a very important theme to have throughout your entire career. Otherwise, sometimes it's a little tough to stomach some of these things. But she's clearly very, very successful. And what I wanted to say about her, she gave me an opportunity. And I think this is something that all of you should have take with you, because I think it's all our responsibilities to give women opportunities. But what was interesting about Sally is she took a risk. She was running Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. And I had most of my life been an investment banker. I'm from Mexico. I was born in Sonora, a long way to Wall Street, grew up in Brazil, eventually came to the United States. My first time here, I was 17, and I came to college here in the US. But what was interesting about Sally, it was that being head of wealth management, I was running investment banking for Latin America at Merrill Lynch, at Bank of America. And she said, I need someone to run Latin America wealth management. And I introduced her to several excellent candidates. She says, no, it's you. I said, well, I don't have any experience in wealth management. She said, it doesn't matter. That's not the important part. I said, well, no, it is. I mean, especially if you're asking me to run a division. She said, no, I can tell you learn very fast. That's not the issue. But you know Latin America extremely well. You have credibility, and you know how to navigate this very complex institution. So she knew what was required, really, of the position. And I went on to spend 3 of probably my best years in my career. They were incredible. I went in very scared, right? And I think we often do when opportunities present themselves. You might think that you're not qualified. You'd be surprised how qualified you are in most instances. And to the girl who's at Goldman Sachs and is not very happy, though she has a wonderful job and is getting paid very well, I must say that I started my career after business school. I went to Goldman, and I spent 9 extraordinary years. I was hardwired there, and one day I walked out to nothing. And so we can have a long conversation as to how do you, I think it's, how do you discover what else you might want to do? That's one of the ways. It's a high-risk way. And after almost 9 years in investment banking, I spent 11 years in media and broadcasting. And then 7 years ago, I came back to investment banking. So there's no set path. There's no formula. There's no, go a little bit with the flow. Go with your heart. When I see how much I've changed in my career, going from finance to media, back to finance, going to wealth management, the conclusion I come to at this advanced age is that it's not so much what I do, but it's how I do it. And I take that how everywhere I go. And I do it very much with the same work ethic and in the same manner. And I think that's what has led me, or taken me to where I am. So, with that, let me start with a few questions. And what we'll do, the format, and if I can get a sort of a raise of the hand, Susan.
Timekeeper.
Like half hour or 35 minutes, so we can leave about 25 minutes for questions, Q&A. So the first question is, the STEM fields are spaces that are traditionally dominated by men. So can you share with us your experiences as you enter each one of your fields, and as you move up to very, very successful success in your careers and very positions of leadership? What obstacles, if any, did you find? What were the challenges?
You want to start?
Okay.
Being very honest, I have been very privileged. I cannot really mention any obstacle because I have always been very supported by men. We started the company that I'm privileged to chair. It's a company that started a couple of friends and myself, and it was not a couple, probably 5, and all of them were men. And it has been 25 years since we started, and from the very beginning, I have to be very honest, I have been very supported by them. Even when I was pregnant and then after being pregnant. So every time that we talk about obstacles and how difficult it could have been being part of a technology field or not technology, it's difficult for me to share something that it's probably Sally mentioned the different obstacles that she had, and it's not my case. It has been amazing to be a woman, probably a woman among many other men. When they really support you, when they truly believe in you, and they see that you're as passionate as they are, as committed as they are, it is not difficult. Probably for some people, they will question how techie you are, talking about technology. I'm not techie. Probably that's the reason why they are open to have me as the president, because as being the president, it's more about PR and things that as a woman, you are more able to do it. But very honest, I don't know if Adriana has a different experience, but not in the business field, not in the technology field. I cannot say that I have faced any kind of obstacles. Whenever I say this, it's probably because I haven't seen them because I don't want to see them. Some people tell me that, will argue that. Well, probably the obstacles were there. The thing is that you didn't want to see the obstacles. You decided to probably avoid them and think that they were not there. And that might be the case. From the very beginning, I didn't want to talk about gender. It was more about we want to build this company, we can do it, and it's you have the skills, I have the skills, we can do it together. It was not about gender. We never talk about being a woman and being men. Probably when we started, it was, yes, we did have a small office in Mexico, and the office was also where we lived, where they lived, because there were 5 men and I couldn't live with them. But it was not about questioning my gender. So it is male dominated, but it's not necessarily something that.
If I may just make a point, which I think is, as I hear you, before we go to Adriana, sometimes a lot of these obstacles are as you make your way through a large and complex and typically male-dominated organization. And what I hear from you is this was an entrepreneurial venture, a company you started. So with your team, right? So that's a different experience, and I think that is a little bit of why we hear no obstacles in that more traditional sense of how do you jump over all the obstacles to move up within a large organization.
Yeah, because I used to work prior to starting the company. Yes, I was part of an industrial group that used to have a service company, and it is true. Nonetheless, I think when you're when you're from Mexico and trying to promote the technology industry in Mexico and try to open those doors for Mexico, and we're a global company today, it was so difficult to position Mexico as a technology service provider, Mexico as a country, that there was no time to question about gender. It was more about, can Mexico be able to provide this kind of services? So it is true. It is true. It's much easier when you start your company, you're your own sponsor, mentor, and no one can question that. It is true, absolutely.
Adriana.
So I will say that similar story, but a little bit different. I'm born Colombian and started working since 1989. And I think the main obstacle is your mindset. And let me give you an example. So I was living in Brazil since 1996. I had my several jobs in technology companies and all this stuff, had my own company. And there was a time in 1995 that I heard, no, actually 2005, that Google was getting to Brazil. And my husband, who's at that time was a partner at McKinsey, he said, well, this Google seems to be a nice company. And I said, I don't know anything about technology. But caveat, I went to MIT to have a master's degree in something that used to exist right now, is merged into another program. It's called Master of Science in Management of Technology. Because I'm a techie, so I don't take notes. I usually type or swipe. So I said, well, I don't know anything about technology. He said, well, I don't know, you should just go. So I went online, I looked at the jobs, and I applied for one job. I was rejected. Then I applied to a second one. I got 12 interviews, one of them with Sheryl Sandberg, whom you probably know. And then I got through all the interviews, received the offer. This was November 2005. And then I discovered that I was pregnant. I was trying to get pregnant for a while and saying, so what should I do now? Before saying yes to the company. So I was dealing with a lot of telenovelas, soap operas, and inventing and like similar to Sally, and this way, and analyzing all my alternatives. December 5th, 2005, I called my future boss and I say, Antoine, his name. Hello, Antoine. And he said, yes, how are you? So I'm looking forward to receive your answer. And I said, before I start, let me tell you that I'm pregnant. And he said, congratulations, when do you start? So just to put in a very simple example, that really the obstacle is on our mindsets. I think, if you look at the statistics right now, we have more women going into the tech fields and graduating from those programs. So in the past, that was an issue. Right now, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. That's a great story. That's a great story. What are some of the most important opportunities? Now, I heard some of them as you spoke about what you're doing, but if you can talk about one or two opportunities that you just seized and that made a big difference.
In my case, I have to say that the opportunity was to start a company. I don't know if my story could have been very different if I stayed in the first company that I worked for. It was from Monterrey. I don't know if you know Mexico, the north part of Mexico. Monterrey is probably one of the most conservative cities in the country, and they would never even consider that a woman could work. I mean, it is to have a job and you were getting married, and why would you even consider that? And I got my engagement ring when I was 24. I had been working for that company for 5 years, I think. And I was getting married in May. And we were discussing about starting this company. It was 82. Mexico was facing a huge financial crisis. And I said, well, probably starting two things that should not be as difficult. I have to lead with my husband, yes, let's start a new family and understanding what that means. But it's probably the best time also to start a new story about this. At that moment, I did believe that it was going to be much easier to start a company than to stay in this huge company. It was not necessarily, it's hard, as Sally mentioned, to start a company and understand once you start growing that there's a lot of families depending on you. But nonetheless, I would say that certainly the most important decision that I made from a professional perspective was, one, to start the company, and the second one would be probably when we went bankrupt in 2000 to say we should stay here and there is no way to quit. We can turn around this company and make this happen. So probably those two decisions certainly had an impact. One, the way that I started my family, the way that my daughters see that they can pursue whatever they want, no matter if they live in Monterrey, and Monterrey will always question your reasons to work and if your daughters are the way they should do because you're paying enough attention to them. So one was certainly, that was the first one. But the second one, to stay when everything seems that it's difficult, and to say, no, I will not quit. We can turn this around. It's certainly something that has been key in my career. For my team, it could have been easier for me to walk away and say, you know what, I have teenagers, I cannot stay here. Mm-hmm. You understand that, believe me, because turning around the company in 2000 with presence in, at that time, 5 different countries, it was not easy. It was not easy, and I think it was important for my team to show them that we could do it. It was easier for a woman to do it because you have to keep your team together. For me, it was very important because I proved myself that I could do it. So probably those two decisions were the most important ones, because you prove yourself that you can start a company, that you can be successful in that company, but you can also face difficulties, that you can also face whatever problem you have. Probably the second one is the most important one, not the first one, to stay and not quit
Yes.
when things are difficult. It's
How
absolutely
many employees in your company?
10,000.
Wow.
10,000 and presence in the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Yeah.
So impressive.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, opportunities or decisions. Opportunities, I see it, and
That
opportunities.
you seized, that you
yes,
said,
I-
aha.
Uh-huh.
You know, sometimes I say opportunities, sometimes people say, God, you've been so lucky. It's like, well, you know what, actually, it's, yeah, you could call it luck. It's opportunities present themselves to everyone all the time. The question is, are you alert? And are you paying attention? And then you seize it, right?
Exactly.
The opportunity comes, you take it, and then the hard work begins, right?
Yeah, but I would say it has also a previous. Let me give you an example. So I joined Google early 2006, with 11-week pregnant, to build that team. Google Brazil, Google Latam was 15 people at that point in time. Let me give you perspective. Today we're 1,000, and we have 6 offices. So a lot of work needed to be done. But I wanted someday to be a country director of one of the countries. At that time, there was nothing, right? There was Brazil and 15 people. Then I had my baby, and then Brazil became an office, real office. And I said, well, I would like to become the country manager of Brazil or another opportunity. So I started to seeding, and I'm going to just to tap into the opportunity to seeding put in the platform that I was mobile, that I have mobility, despite my husband being working in Brazil, and I'm having a baby, my only child. 2009, so I kept on telling my managers that I wanted to pursue this opportunity. I wanted desperately to be to direct a country, and when the opportunity appears, for them to consider me, provided I was delivering on my performance. Well, nothing happened until suddenly the head of Latin America calls me and he says, you know, we have an issue in Argentina, there is a person going. I didn't think about you because you have your daughter who's 3 years old, you have your husband, and I say, why? So I'm here, and that's something that I want to do. Allow me the opportunity to take that job. And he said, well, okay, think about it. And it was a Thursday, and let me know by Monday, because by Tuesday you need to be there. So I went home and I said, oh my God, so Pedro, my husband, I'm going to tell Pedro that I did this, and I don't know he's going to support me. And I, Pedro, look at this. And he said, you should take it. I said, you know, what do we do with the girl? He said, well, let's take it. Let's take it. Hold on. You should take it. That's something that you are going to be a rising star because you love this stuff. So you need to follow your passion. Let's think about over the weekend. He was here in New York. He came to the weekend and said, you know what, we need to plan, we need a plan. And finally, he got into The Economist. I remember so deeply this article about the former president of Yahoo, who at that time wrote that everything was possible, that she was commuting, working in the Silicon Valley and living in Dallas or another. And he said, he sent me the article, he said, this is the solution. So you are going to Buenos Aires from Monday to Friday, and I'm going to stay with the baby here, and we test it. If this works, we'll then figure that out. So that opportunity, I didn't close the doors. I was an obstacle to myself. I had a sponsor and a mentor at home, which helps my husband. And then I took that opportunity. When I got there, I had a lot of issues to deal with, which was the right decision, because if I were with my family, I wouldn't have been able to turn the business around. So I was fully focused and commuting 1 year to Sao Paulo, and then I moved my baby to Argentina, and then my husband commuted for 3 years. Let me give you perspective. It's a 2.5-hour flight, but door to door, if you know Sao Paulo, and if you know Buenos Aires, it takes you 6 to 7 hours. So he commuted 3 years on a weekly basis. That's the opportunity, and I'm here now.
I think that's fantastic, and that is such a great example of you're your own barrier, right? I mean, if an opportunity presents itself, we immediately say, well, but I can't because I can't move. No, I just had the baby. No, I did. And I have a similar situation where my husband lives in Miami, I live here. Why did that happen? Same thing. I got the opportunity to come. He said, this is your best opportunity. And I was looking at several other opportunities. He said, this is the best one, you gotta do it. But it's a mess, wait, you're in Miami, the kids, he goes, do it, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I came, did the same thing you did, going back down to Miami. Finally, the kids have to be with mom, sorry. That, I will not, compromise on that. Kids with mom, dads don't do science projects. And then my husband has commuted every single weekend, hasn't missed a weekend for 7 years. It works.
It works.
It works.
It works.
It's always a honeymoon then.
Actually, every time he threatens to come to New York, I tell him there's no closet space, you don't fit in this apartment. No, that's not the deal.
It's a visitor for the weekend visitor, right?
But anyway,
yeah.
So it's interesting, you said your husband was your mentor sponsor, right? Sally talked about mentor sponsored and made a very good distinction. I thought, sometimes we have trouble saying, well, what's a mentor, what's a sponsor? And the real power is a sponsor, right? Can you talk about whether you've had mentor or sponsor in your careers and if they've really made that difference?
I would say mentors. When you have partners, in a certain way, they are your mentors because you have every day you mentor them and they mentor you if you're open to receive that. So I would say mentors. Clearly, I have been very privileged. Mentor in-house in my family and certainly my partners. Sometimes the other people that knows you and they know what you're doing or trying to do or achieve, they also help you. I think mentoring is about being open to receive that feedback. Because I do believe that when you show that you're open to receive whatever feedback, it's more easy to get it. Because sometimes they will give you this advice and you will not necessarily agree with them, so they will not come again and try to give you that feedback. So mentors, yes. And sponsors, probably again, because I'm an entrepreneur, sometimes you become your own sponsor. But also, I always say that it's not just your husband. My husband was very supportive, but also I keep saying that I have a family support system. Being from Latin America, it's easy when you think about traveling. For example, I travel a lot. I commute. More than commute, I have to be in Brazil one day and then in Argentina and then come back to do the science project that you mentioned or being a room mother or whatever. The sponsor that you have probably in Latin America or the sponsor that I have, it's your own family. It's the one that it's giving you that opportunity also. When you're from Latin America, you can always call your 4 sisters, your mother, your comadres, whatever everybody helps you because they are so excited about seeing what you're doing that they not just support you, that they not just help you in being able to do that and not necessarily build those obstacles that we mentioned. So mentors, I do believe that it's very, very important, but you have to be very open to receive that feedback and being able to give that feedback. I think mentoring is a virtuous cycle that you mentor and then you're being mentored. And sponsors, I believe that it's not just like Sally mentioned, inside the company or outside. It's also sponsor are the infrastructure that you have in order to pursue your dreams or being able to build whatever you want to build. So from my perspective, the sponsor is not just the person who opens doors for you from a professional perspective. It's also those that build that infrastructure that allows you to go and pursue that dream or build that thing that you want to do.
Yeah, so on the same, I think my main mentor has been my husband. I think he has been able to keep me thinking big and expand my horizons and supportive. I will say that he has been very key on my career. In Google, it's interesting because Google is a very new company, so it's 15 years old. So I'm kind of 8 years, as I'm kind of there. I joined when we were like 3,000, today we're like almost 50,000. So finding a mentor internally has been difficult. However, meaning because you are kind of the most senior people there, right? But since this is a company that evolves so quickly and changes so quickly, so just to put in perspective, 8 years, 10 different bosses. So more than one per, and we reorg as we grow, really, really crazy, crazy but in a good manner, for good. So I remember, so I picked up a mentor. To be someone to be my mentor. Used to be a former manager of my organization. She was my boss, but for a short period of time, and we connected, we clicked. And then as you rise in your career, you feel really lonely, and you want someone to give you trusted advice. So I picked at her, and I call her every now and then. She lives in California. And she has helped me a lot because she knows the company, she knows how the company operates, and she has helped me a lot. But I think, you know, the most important thing is at home. My husband not only mentoring my career, but also building the infrastructure, because this needs an infrastructure to help me. In the year, I travel 60% of my time.
Yeah.
So I need that at home, otherwise that won't fly.
Sure. So before we open up to questions, are we doing good, well in time? Okay. And I think at the beginning I heard a little suggestion that maybe it wasn't that strange for women to go into STEM fields and science and technology, but maybe you have a view as to how could we encourage more women to enter these fields. And I can tell you, I can give one answer. Well, this is one person's answer, which is I have a brother who has 3 daughters. He wanted the son, he never got there. He has 3 daughters. And he has one rule with them: you either study engineering or I don't pay for your university.
Well, that's a
He has one MIT graduate, one is about to graduate from Penn, and he has an 8th grader who I know exactly what major she's going to be doing. So that's one way.
Well, that's one way of doing it, yes. But I think the other one, it is true. More and more we see women getting into this kind of careers, and you see them in universities. Nonetheless, it's difficult to deny that there are not many in the IT firms. We do have very good role models. You have the IBM CEO, the Yahoo, HP, certainly the CEO from Facebook. So we do have role models, but at the very, very top, I do believe that in order for women to really consider to get into this field, they need to see that being techie, it's not necessary. Sometimes you don't want to get into those fields because you think it's not sexy. Being a techie, it's not necessarily something that will attract men. So no, it is true. If you want to ask them, it's difficult to be a woman getting into the business, but if you are someone techie, then that's another disadvantage. So you're a woman that wants to work, and also a techie that it's in a certain way you want to show them that you know very difficult things. So some women, I believe, that they don't want to get into this because they are afraid of this kind of things. So one thing, it's really the role models to show them that it's also fun. Technology sometimes is scary, but if you take a look at the statistics, when you think about social media, probably Adriana, you have better numbers than I do, but I understand at least more than 65% of anything that is being done with social media, it's women that are behind that. So I do believe that kind of exposure will also encourage more women to want to be involved in that. From an entrepreneur, starting as an entrepreneur, or understanding how important technology is, and understanding that if, as a woman, we want to make a change, technology will allow us to do that. Mm-hmm. So one, it's the way that your brother did, that could work. But the other one is to make sure that girls and women are exposed to technology. Today we are, and understand that technology is fun. Technology doesn't have to be, can be sexy, can be interesting. But you have to be exposed. I do believe that one way of doing it is to expose them to the kind of things that we can do using technology. As women, we always want to transcend and transform and innovate. And technology allows you to do that. So exposure should be one key component on encouraging more women to be involved in this.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. The only thing that I will add will be to tell stories a little bit more on the social impact of technology and how independent on gender, you can make a huge difference for people's lives. And that's basically it. And I think forums like this, right? And examples and role models like Marisa Mayer from Yahoo, she was the first engineer in Google. Susan Wojcicki runs probably the largest organization in Google. She runs basically the ads, and Google makes money from ads. So exposing those cases and also the cases that we have in the region, I think that's key.
That's excellent. So we're going to open it up to Q&A, and I did want to ask my question because I really want to get it in. How was your interview with Sheryl Sandberg?
But Sheryl.
Wait, first, what year was it, so that we can get a perspective?
Okay,
and what did you think of her when you were interviewing?
And she's an amazing person. So for those of you who don't know, Sheryl is the COO for Facebook, but she was key building Google's business. Sheryl joined when we didn't monetize, we didn't make any money. And she was in charge of building the team who ran at that time our only product for advertising called AdWords. So she ran all these things. The interview was over the phone. And actually I reported to her like for 4 months. She is absolutely a caring person. She's a leader that you want to follow because you emotionally connect with her. And that's really powerful, even through the phone. So the first question that she asked is like, she enhanced my ego, whatever. She said, I've heard beautiful things about you. And then she got it really tough. But it's like, she told me, like, I'm privileged to be speaking with you, which was the other way around, right? So it's like, okay, this enhancement of the person you are talking with it was great. And over the years she stayed at Google. I think she left, I forgot, I think 2011.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 or 3 years ago. So 5 years that I worked in her organization. And I reported to her in a specific period of time when a person left. She is an inspiring and amazing person, hard worker, and we had a baby about the same time. So it's Facebook is in good hands. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
That's true.
Questions? All the way at the back. Yes. We will need a microphone.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Paula. I am from Mexico. I work at Mexico's Ministry of Education. And I would like to ask you 2 questions to both of you. They are somehow related. And especially to you because you work and live in developing countries. So the first question is, basically, I'm not afraid of getting there. I know someday I will. I know that someday, sooner or later, I might be Mexico's Minister of Education. The thing is, remember my face. And who knows, maybe Mexico's first female president, why not? But the question is, how can I make the process of getting there friendly and not exhausting? That will be my first question. And the second one will be, how can I build and promote leadership in society? I'm not afraid of working with men and spending most of my time at the office with men, but I'm truly afraid of seeing that most of my friends from college decided to stop their dreams, and now they spend their time with their babies, and basically they make me feel guilty about having dreams of my own, professional dreams. And in societies like Mexico, it's really hard not to build leadership with men, but to truly pass leadership to other women that may or may not have my same level of education. How can you do that? Thank you.
I think that first you have a very powerful vision, so I'm sure you will be that in years that Minister of Education. I have no doubt about that. But something that's important, and I didn't mention that, we have something in our favor to do that. Sometimes you become leader without them, men, even noticing that you're getting there, because you can do that not necessarily very aggressively, but in a way, working as a team member, and all of a sudden they look at you for advice, because sometimes men compete more openly. You as a woman don't need to compete, at least that's my experience. You don't have to do that aggressively. It's they don't even notice that you're doing it. When you're it's a part of that team in which you have just men do compete very, very openly, and they don't look at you as a competition. Normally, they will not even look at you, so they will not notice that you're pursuing that leadership, and you end up having it. So one thing, I do believe that becoming a leader as a woman, it's easier when you don't do it openly or very aggressively, because they don't even consider you as a competitor, so they will not stop you. That's something that I notice that it's important. When they don't see you as a competitor, they will not even try to stop you. So that's one thing. And to help others, I think doing what you're doing, you should not feel guilty. It's true, one of the things that sometimes stop us from pursuing those professional dreams, it's because we feel guilty. And probably the best way is to show him that you can be both. It's not one or the other. You should not be guilty. If you go and ask my daughters, one is about to be a mom, I'm going to be a grandmother soon, and the other one is 20. And if you go and ask them, they want to do the same thing. They really want to pursue and have a professional career. But something that's important, probably it's my mom who told me that, you should never feel guilty, because they will perceive that, and then they will feel that they have this disadvantage. So you always have to, in a way, show them that there's a reason for you to do this, whatever you're doing. Either if you do want to leave your job or pursue those dreams, they have to feel that there's a reason to do that you're doing it for a reason, not just because you will have fun building a company or being part of Google. If you can show that you can have both things and not necessarily complain about how difficult it is, other women will join you. The thing is that every time this kind of panels happen, at least in Mexico, most women will complain or share a story that it has been very difficult. Very difficult. Your dad, your boss, your team members. So why would other women try to do it? You are telling them it's difficult. It's difficult. It's going to be very hard. But if we change the dynamic of this kind of panels and we share, it's difficult, yes, but it is possible. You'll have fun. It's something that you'll be able to achieve if you really want to do it. I think the dynamic will change. Sometimes the panels are about sharing the difficulties instead of sharing what you feel once you achieve that. I do believe that that's the best way to encourage other women and to help them pursue that. Even in Mexico and even in Monterrey.
I would say that finding the way, as you start your career, you're an individual contributor, then you become, and in order to succeed, you need to become a leader. And I think women we do have a special gift, I don't know. But I think becoming a leader, because you are not going to provide results, because it's all about results, right? We need to provide results in any single field, right? And prove that those results, the companies where we work, they make money, right, at the end. And you are not going to do that alone. So you need to build your leadership capabilities. And I think that's something that you basically, you can read a lot of books, but I think the most, let's say, compelling learning experiences through observation. And mentorship are probably role models. And select the managers or select the leaders that are good for you, in a sense that make you do what you believe is impossible, make that possible. So Cheryl is one of these fearless leaders, right? If you believe that you cannot do something, but there is someone that is pushing you and is believing on you at your story, that person is a good leader, because that person is bringing a lot of stuff from you. So try to do that with your team. So the way to to evolve into that, and when you become minister, you're going to lead a lot of people. It's lead by inspiration, and you need a team, because you're lonely, you're not going to make it. That's basically it. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, here in the middle, yeah, or I can't, oh, one over there, okay, and then to the middle.
Yeah, sorry, you cannot see me. I'm here in the corner. I'm Teresa. I'm from Chile. And first, I wanted to make a little comment. What you were talking about really makes me think.
Can we see you?
I don't know.
So, Blanca and Adriana can see.
No,
yeah,
sure, I can move.
Oh,
Okay, now
great,
you can
great.
see me.
Otherwise, it was just a voice.
Yeah. Hearing you talk, it really makes me feel pretty fortunate. I also have a husband at home that's been a real partner, career-wise and personally. And it's pretty good because it helps you face the statistics. In my case, I work in strategy consulting. And the reality of the senior management on my company is very telling. 100% of men are married with a stay-at-home wife. 100% of women are single. So it's pretty daunting, a statistic. But what I wanted to ask you, you talked at the beginning about obstacles, dealing with obstacles. I know that there's a lot of obstacles in place. You can see them. But you said at first that you did not want to see them. I wanted to ask you about choosing to ignore them. Just doing the practical thing of just acting as if they're not there. And just going for it without those obstacles being in your head and stopping you. So I wanted to hear your opinions on that.
Yeah. Yes, obstacles are sometimes you put the obstacles because it sometimes is the way of avoiding a decision. In a way, you say that's the obstacle, so there's no way I can avoid that. So let me go back, and I cannot do this because there's the obstacle. So in my case, it like I said before, I choose, and it's always a decision that you make. I choose not to see the obstacles, because if you don't see the obstacle, you just keep walking or doing whatever, or probably just finding the other way of doing that. Obstacles, it's a decision that you make. It's a decision to see them, to avoid them, to stop you. I do believe that it's a decision. For example, in the company that you work for, if for whatever reason you didn't have the chance to work there, or if you see that last ceiling that they mentioned, you always have the choice to go to another company. I keep saying that. Why do you stay in a company that you will not have the possibilities or the opportunities that you want? So from my perspective, it is important that we don't keep on excusing ourselves of not going after what we want, excusing by saying there are so many obstacles. There are so many. Because if we keep looking for those obstacles instead of keep looking for those opportunities, we will not be successful. So yes, the obstacles could be there, but it's your decision how you face them. Not look at them, finding the other way, avoiding them, but certainly not allowing them to stop you. It is always your decision from my perspective. It should be your own decision, not a decision that someone puts on you because they build that obstacle for you.
No, I wouldn't say ignore them. So fully agree with Blanca, but I think information is power. So once you know that something is kind of an obstacle, just work on it. Deal with it. That would be my only advice.
You know, if I can offer an example, when I heard the comment about so many of our future Minister of Education's friends are at home taking care of their babies, in my personal experience, I sort of back-ended my kids, and I had my daughter at 45, and I was CEO of a company, a large pan-regional company, radio group with about 600 owned and operated radio stations throughout all of Latin America. And I went through the pregnancy as if it didn't exist. Again, it's not an illness, it's just a condition, right? And had my baby, and it was like, hey, I'm CEO, you get with the program, okay? This is the way it is. And I didn't even think about, oh my God, do I stop my job? It was, and what you find is that, and you probably certainly are live examples, children are so resilient. They have an intuitive sense and a capacity to adapt to your life that is just extraordinary. We don't adapt to theirs, they adapt to yours. And what's very powerful about being a role model is that they then actually, I work very hard. I probably see my kids less than the average mom, but they have such deep respect and admiration for what I do. And I sense that they too will have great careers just from the example.
Let me give you, I think we need to make our bets, right? And we need to decide what do we want, right? I was having this panel in Mexico the other day, and then a person came and said, to give you an example of an obstacle that I don't think exists. She said, I have this husband, and I have this husband, and I have this husband, and I cannot do this. And I said, you're playing victim. What is it that really matters for you? Who picked your husband? Is it you? Okay, so you have a decision in your hands. If you are feeling that to be honest, that is a victim. I mean, it's a little bit hard to say, but if you are feeling that he is not supporting you and this is going to make you miserable for life, change your husband.
Move on. See.
That's one of the things that we need to make decisions, right? And just picture yourself as a minister like 10 years from now. Are you going to be happy or not? And make that decision now.
And you're leaving your husband or changing your husband not because not because he's not supporting your professional career. It's because he's not necessarily understanding how important it is for you certain things. Because today he might not be supporting your career, but tomorrow he will not necessarily be supporting your decision about how to raise your kids. Because sometimes whenever I said this, they said, so you're choosing your career on top of your husband. No, I'm not suggesting that. You have to consider if that is the partner that you have with you, that you want to have with you, because not supporting you, it says a lot about him. And again, it's your choice. You can always change. That's an obstacle that you can remove. That's an obstacle that you can remove very easily. Something is changing, and I see that in my own partners and in a lot of people. Whenever you go, and that's why I think some obstacles are not in the company, but in their families or society. When you go and ask a lot of men in business, will they open spaces for women? They will say, yes, I understand how important it is to have women as part of my team. And then I ask them, would you allow your wife to be part of his team? No. We're not talking about my wife. I want to have women, but if all of them will think that they don't want their wives to work,
Or their daughters.
It's going to be very difficult. And so we have to understand that, because some men will say, yes, I agree with you. Women are very important. We need diversity, but not in my home. Mm-hmm. And the company, yes, but not in my home. So that's something that we should change also. It's not just open those spaces in the companies, but it's also in our families. Men should always open that possibility for their daughters, their wives, because we will see that change in the business, but if we don't see that change in families, it's going to be difficult to find those talented women that should be part of those boards that Susan mentioned.
Well said. Yeah. Gina, you ready to? Oh. Yeah. Sure. So how do we combine?
Hi, my name's Lisa Katzner. I'm in charge of global women's coverage at Bloomberg News, and we started a project about 3 years ago to make sure that Bloomberg's 5,000 stories a day have a fair amount of women in them, as opposed to a lot of financial coverage, as you know, that just doesn't get at women as voices and sources and really explain the role of women in the global economy all that well. So just for everyone in the room, Bloomberg's got a great effort to work at this, and you'll hear from more Bloomberg people later today. But my question directly for you is a little less on the personal and more to the sort of world of technology. Twitter is going public, and there's been a fair amount of discussion around how there are no women on the board of Twitter as it goes public. The same really happened with Facebook when it went public. We actually wrote a story saying, hey, guess what, there's no women on the board, and a couple months later we had Cheryl put on the board. I'm wondering, this seems to come from the structure of the way that technology companies, particularly in California, sort of emerge. Their funders, their venture investors end up on the board. Is there some sort of crisis in not seeing that technology companies need to start up with more women in the room, particularly with the huge number of customers of all manner of technology that are women? I think there are a fair number, actually, of companies that are growing extremely rapidly that still don't have any women at all on the board out in Silicon Valley. So maybe from Google's perspective, you're doing pretty well, but it's not 50-50 on the board at Google either.
Okay. And then
Okay.
whoever, okay.
Hi, my name is Jessica Penahara Kang. I work for JP Morgan, and I was just curious, making reference on some of the words that Margarita said at the beginning of her opening remarks, and she talked about role model, and she talked about a little bit of legacy. I'm curious to see, when growing up and throughout your career, who do you think was your role model, and what was the characteristic that you want to continue to become a legacy?
Okay.
Hi, my name's Anna DeFio. I'm a graduate student at New York University studying international affairs. So my question stems off kind of what you were saying earlier. You mentioned that the biggest obstacles we face are from our family or society. I'm turning 30 soon, and I know that's really young, but a lot of my friends at this time, they're on their second child, they're getting married, and I'm still kind of feel like I'm just starting my careers and getting to where I want to be and following my dreams. But I get a lot of pressure from direct and indirect pressure from my family and my friends of well, you're almost 30, when are you gonna get a boyfriend, when are you gonna have your kids, and I was wondering how you deal with that, or what is your advice to be able to deal with that. I try to surround myself with women who are sort of on the same path as me, but as I get older, and as you get more higher on the whatever ladder, there's less of those women. So I'm just wondering. Yeah.
Okay. Should we take those three? Yeah. The women on boards of tech companies, and then who was your key role model, and then pressure from family and friends to be more conventional, if you will.
So on the boards, I don't think I have an answer, to be honest. I think it's more of a coincidence. I've seen a lot of leaders that used to work for Google that are in boards in other tech companies, like, for example, Sukhinder. She's part of the Twitter board. So I was trying to connect the statistics, but I'm sorry, I cannot. I see it as maybe coincidence, but I've seen a lot of women from Google leaders, like, for example, my manager, Margot, who is part of a lot of boards. So sorry about that, but I think it's maybe, a coincidence or a fact of timing. I don't see any pattern there. On the second one, the role model. Well, for those Colombian, I remember that I was very young. I was at high school, And we had this minister, Noemí Sanín Quesada. I remember that I saw her one day speaking in public, and I say, I want to be like her. And why? Because she was so powerful and driving a lot of people to believe her beliefs, that I saw myself reflected into her. That was temporarily. Then I got into the labor force, and obviously I was changing my kind of my role models. So I picked my role models internally. But initially, it was a public person. It was very compelling. And the third one, I think, the advice is look for happiness. I think pressures. I had my baby at 39. It was late for my time. But I think it was the best time ever. So it was a decision at the right time. So it's just look for happiness. Happiness will drive results in your life, personally and professionally. And if you look for passion in whatever you do, just ignore the rest. I'm kind of egotistic on this portion. Yeah.
About the boards in technology companies, I read that article about Twitter too, and I don't know, I wouldn't know the answer, but probably goes back to what Susan mentioned at the beginning. It's difficult to have women in boards if you don't have them first as top executives. And there are some examples of top executives in the technology companies, but not as many as you can see in the probably financial sector. There are not as many. There are not as many, so probably it's a result. It's just like Susan mentioned, if you don't have them as top executives, it's going to be very difficult to see them sitting in boards. The second one, role models. In Mexico, at that time, 30 years ago, probably there were not many, not in politics, not in business. So I would have to say it was my mom. She decided to get into university when she had 6 kids and she was pregnant with the 7th. So if she could do that, I could do anything. I could do anything. And also, probably my dad was just like your brother. He never ever allowed me to say, no, I'm not going to university, no, I'm not going to work. He said that he could live through anything, but not to having a daughter that was a coward. So she said, you better go after that, and there's no space here in the house for someone that doesn't do that. So role model, I'll say it has to be my mom. And social pressure and family pressure. I completely agree with Adriana. You first have to really decide what you want to do. Being happy, happiness is the most important thing, and happiness is different for different people. For some of us, and I think you too, and for many of us, happiness is about that balance and being able to pursue your having a family, friends, and whatever, and also pursuing that career. But you have to see if in a certain way you don't have that family today, or that today because of the company that you're working for, or the way that you think that you have to do that, or the other way around, because you need both. You have to be in the environment in which you can feel that you can do it. I keep saying that it is important that you can openly say that you cannot go to that meeting or you cannot go to that trip because you have a piñata for your daughters. I don't want to make up that I have a meeting. I have a piñata, and I have to be in that environment. That I can do that instead of making stories. And also from your family, it's your time. It's not necessarily your career. It's, when you find the right partner that you want. And if they don't understand it, that's their problem, not yours. And being very honest, I have to say that it's more difficult from a social perspective, family perspective. I think our husbands are the ones that suffer the most. At least that's what I think. Yeah. My husband, his friends always ask them, do you really believe your wife is in Brazil working? And he said, yes, she's working. But I have to be very honest. I think it was much more difficult for him than it was for me. Yeah. Being a man in Mexico, having a wife that worked, it is horrible. They will always say, so how do you feel? Is she making good money, more than you? And are you still the man in the house? Are you sure she's not having an affair in Spain? Because
yes,
how come she's traveling so much?
Spain.
Yeah, so those kind of things happen. So
excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's just been a lot of fun. I wish we could go on for another hour, but congratulations to both of you. It's fantastic. Thank you.